Hello. Let's get started. Great to be here. We're both here from Fleet and very pleased to be able to sponsor. My name's Harry, and this is my colleague Henry. I'm a former CPE, former chef turned CPE based out of San Francisco. In my free time, I like to just hang out with my partner. I do a lot of cooking, and I got a couple cats, Miso and Dashi. I'm going to hand it over to Henry to introduce himself.
Yeah, I'm Henry from Hamburg. I'm a Mac admin for quite a while. Last decade I worked as a consultant, MSP, and have been in the MDM vendor space as well. And I co-run the Hamburg Mac Admins Meetup. So of course we all gather here. And I'm also on the Mac Admins open source board. So I take care that we sustain the mission and have more projects coming into Mac Admins open source. I joined Fleet beginning of this year to expand the EU presence and mission, and I work with great colleagues and good customers. We're both in the solutions consultants team and contribute to several open source projects. Now you take over.
All right, so let's talk quickly about Fleet. Fleet's open source device management with the goal of simplifying IT infrastructure, enhancing security through clarity, and empowering your end users. We let IT and security teams get work done faster, more effectively. Fleet is an API-first platform, which means programmatically managing your devices doesn't require complex workflows or bolt-on solutions. Full platform functionality from MDM spec to OS query can be managed natively in code. We heard it earlier this morning in Ulrich's session, but last month, Apple launched Apple Business and made core device management free globally, and that's a significant shift. The cost barrier to MDM is now gone, which is great news for smaller organizations and device security everywhere. Many of you have probably used MDM for a long time and have watched the framework evolve over the last 15 years, but some of the big moments came last fall. During enforced migration for macOS and iOS 26, which makes moving between vendors smoother than ever. Today, you're not just managing devices anymore. You and your MDM are part of business protection, which goes beyond just regular IT operations. Compliance frameworks are set by security, but leadership is on the hook. The fines and negative business impacts are very real. NIS2 is just one example, but the pattern is global and the pace isn't slowing down. And one of the things we can count on is that security baselines shift after every Apple release. If you haven't started to automate change management, configuration control, and documentation, you're already behind. In the end, your auditor doesn't care which MDM you run. They care that you can prove what changed, when, where, and how. Turns out, so does everyone else. And that's where you come in as the admin. Mac success across the enterprise has brought security and compliance teams right to your doorstep. You and your team are the ones with the full stack expertise, and you're the ones who decide what the right configuration looks like. When AI enters the workflow, which of course it will, that doesn't change. Intent and accountability stays with you. AI makes the drafts, but in the end, you decide. We keep the human in the loop. This is the moment to show up differently for how you approach device management, and GitOps is how we do that. So how does this look in practice? Take, for example, deploying a restrictions payload to prevent airdrop. The IT admin creates the profile, makes the commit to a branch, and then opens up a pull request to merge that into main. This kicks off the review and approval process from the necessary code owners. And then once approved and merged, this will trigger the CI/CD pipeline to apply the latest code to Fleet. The config is pushed to the device and verified via OS query, giving the admin confidence that not only did the device acknowledge the command, that those settings are applied to the device. Every step of this journey is tracked, every approval recorded, ensuring the device receives the correct intended configuration. With GitOps and config as code, the principle is simple. If it touches the device, it belongs in Git. Your profiles, your baselines, your scripts, they all become versioned, visible, and auditable. MDM and management agents will still do the heavy lifting, but the decision on which ships to whom and why now lives in Git. Every decision has context, and every change now has an author. So when someone leaves the organization, the run book, the context, and the documentation doesn't leave with them. If we take an example of a pull request, the diff view shows exactly what has changed. There's nothing hidden and nothing is assumed, and that's intentional. You can run the same pipeline twice on the same input, and you're going to get the same output. If you stage these changes to a test group, scope with labels, and roll out to the broader environment, that's super safe. Post-deployment, now Fleet queries a device via OS query, and verification isn't a phase, it's just baked in. So this whole workflow, this is the destination. But before you build any of this, you need to do a little bit of house cleaning. And Henry's going to walk you through what that looks like using a new tool called Contour.
All right. So thanks, Harry. On the way to GitOps, whatever path you take to get there, everyone begins on the same common ground. If you're switching MDMs, you export configs and scripts and other stuff. You normalize them or sort and refine this. And then, of course, if you have everything set up, then you do the enforced migration via the Apple Business capability that handles the device move. But if you're staying on your current MDM, and probably many of you do, that's exactly the same journey if you want to go GitOps, just without the re-enrollment. Either way, you need to know what you actually have in your current MDM and review that honestly. And there's a lot of things to discover very individually to your org and your setup, of course. Think for a moment what happens if you go and copy everything over as is, right? You bring the config that was always there, and undocumented profiles, copy of copy, these kind of things happen to end up in some systems. Maybe a CIS baseline with default settings that nobody challenged at all. It's just like how it's printed in the CIS benchmark, but is it really adapted? All of this piles up, and moving to a new MDM or moving to GitOps, or do both, forces you to look at this and finally see what's hiding in plain sight. So you've chosen GitOps. Now the real work starts. Think of it like Marie Kondo. If it doesn't have a clear purpose or a clear owner, it doesn't make the trip, right? And this is the moment where you hold up each config and each script and ask, does this still earn its place? When you see all the profiles as text files and scripts as well, that is revealing and a bit overwhelming, probably. You see formatting inconsistencies, payloads that you didn't know that they existed that way. And now you have to organize all of this in a new way to get started. So a clear folder structure helps, where you group things together into subfolders and reference this by path. You decide, of course, in this process what stays and what goes. And what you're building towards is a repo where every file has a reason to be there. You know the workflow, you know what's ahead and what needs to move. Now let's look at some tools that help you get there a little bit faster and more efficient. That is complementing your work in the text editor and Finder and whatever tools you use to get into this GitOps operation and new mode of operation. Sorry. So for years, most of us worked in the GUI. Copy paste was the workflow. Drift becomes normal. Typos ship. And now even AI agents start to write configs, but with no guardrails. So here's a new tool to help, I hope. It's called Contour. It's an open source CLI. Think of it as a Swiss Army knife for device management profiles and configs. And what it does, it validates and lints mobile configs. They will be around for a bit, I guess. And also DDM JSON config files against an embedded Apple schema. And that's a big difference. If you've ever used any AI coding assistant or agent, very often you give a URL and say, hey, this is where Apple has all this stuff. But how do you know that this really pulls in the right information? it's more hope, and then you get a result, maybe a config, but is it really having the keys that should be in there? So this validation on disk, just baked into this tool, with having the schema, that's a big difference. Yeah. And this tool also can help you to generate configs, or help an AI agent to generate configs, because an AI agent is usually calling up a CLI tool, reads the help menu, and the help menu in this tool is built in a way that progressively an AI agent, when it loops over, because in the end it's always a loop, it will progressively get into this information. So that's a quite neat way that I figured over the time. So feed-it signed profiles, check profiles of unknown origin that you get somewhere, or even have a full vendor dump. It unsigns, it strips vendor metadata, it handles the identifiers, and recreates UUIDs when needed. And so everything is normalized this way in one batch by this one binary. You get output that cleans, that is much cleaner, that especially if you diff it, and contour fails loud and presents a bit more context when something's wrong. So like keys are missing or totally made up. So whether you wrote it or an AI agent did. Let me run a quick demo. I start with an export from a common MDM using a vendor tool, Jamf CLI, to download a batch backup. That is like having some metadata, and then I use Contour to normalize and process everything into a proper schema. And yeah, the point of this demo is very simple. It should save you time on the mechanics so that you can make a better plan, working on the crucial details. So I hope we see something, and I need to move my mouse over. That's fun. Where is it? Oh, we're here. So we have the Jamf CLI, and is it large enough? I guess so. So this is running. It's downloading already some stuff from a Jamf instance. Open that, and it's moving the folder in. Oh, yeah, we go. It's a little thinky. So we see something was downloaded, and yeah, it has metadata inside. So yeah, you can't just use this for GitOps, right? So now we're going in and using Contour, and it's done. You see here that just like it parsed the output and just like did some stuff. And now we're changing again, and that's here. And here we have nice formatted things. And also on the way, we just changed this to nice formatting. And all the profiles are there. Of course, you still have to look at each, which one should stay, which one do you want to replace, get rid of. But this was a very fast way of doing this. Let's hop over. Thank you. Let's hop over to another demo, which is also the Mac Security Compliance project is something that we use a lot. I hope so. And this is also built into this tool more as a helper. I know there's tons of ways, also good GUI tools to do this. So it's just an alternative way. So I init here and say eu.macadmins. So it has several output modes. In this case, I go not for the Jamf mode, I go for the Fleet mode, I go not for the monkey mode, and yes, constraint files. This is, I mean, MDM solutions have things built in that you want to use as the built-in stuff. For example, file vault. So constraints is just like a skip list and creating things from MSCP. Now we go here, and now I need to copy over the next command. Hopefully that works. Oh, cool. It's always good. Can I copy? Can I paste? Oh no. Demos. So All right. Now I have the next command that I can just pick up. To generate output file. Now it's pulling that specific branch. Of course, with MSCP 2.0 that will change. Now it generated the files. I do open again. So we have a file, and oops, yeah, it's here. And then again, that is created with metadata. Okay, so the next thing is more an experimental feature, and I hand out AirTag to the person who can share what path this is going to be using, like contour profile synthesize library. Okay, oops, yeah. And I mean, we all know, and I said this is an experimental feature, we all know that there's plist inside, but the rest is not existing. However, let's have a look. Boom. I mean, this is a managed computer, and we have now full profiles. I wouldn't immediately copy paste them or use them in GitOps. I would test them one by one. But it's a very fast way to just like see what was pushed to the device, right? There's tons of more stuff in Contour. It's early stage. It has a lot of people that looked at it, when it was privately shared, some contribution already, and it's available on MacAdmin's open source. Now back. Here we are. Cool. So we've seen Peek was already mentioned. That is this quick look tool that helps to see the profile scripts and all the formats that matter. And you don't need to open them manually to see what a single file has inside. And then you can decide what you want to edit. And while we're cleaning house, because still the mission is going GitOps, this is a good moment to rework your security baseline. Ideally, you use the Mac Security Compliance project, which is built for baseline as code, and that has CAS, NIST, and DISA rules, and much more baked in. Pick what fits your organization, drop what doesn't, make these adjustments, that's expected. And once it's tailored, it slots into your repo, your security baseline becomes a file in Git, reviewed, versioned, always current. And the documentation is done along the way. Now, I mean, we all work probably quite long in this space. We have scripts, extension attributes, and over time, this is where legacy quietly thrives, copied in many years ago, unknown origin, and probably nobody really wants to own it. It may have still code checking for OS behavior from a decade ago, still running on every inventory cycle, hopefully not. But if you migrate those old scripts without sanitizing and looking at it, you own that for another 5 years. As a contrast, here's the same information that you get with OS Query. It's also a 10 years old example, but it stays more current, queryable, versioned. It lives easily in Git. It has a clear owner, clear purpose, and that's, I think, a difference here. And yeah, with OS Query, typically, whatever solution you use, you have the capability to more granularly set the frequency these queries are running. So don't pack the clutter. OS Query, this is a solution that is invented back then at Facebook. It's very popular, built into many security tools that you may have deployed and you don't know that it's even in. It turns device state into SQL, hardware, software configuration, and it's queryable across those 283 tables. You see there's a lot of tables. You can scroll down. This is the page of the project. And yeah, it runs on macOS, Windows, and Linux. And each table has some defined columns, so you query exactly what you need and nothing more. Yeah, and here you see the OS versions that are supported for that table. And if you use Raycast, just in case, there's an extension for OS query tables that does literally the same. That is right in your launcher. You copy it, you test it, you save it, same tables, columns, but less friction between the idea and the action. So it's again looking for battery. I can just scroll all those columns. And I can also build a simple query and just copy that. Just in case you're using Raycast, that could be a neat helper. And if you're not into writing queries yet, that's totally fine. Fleet ships with built-in vitals out of the box. So battery condition, disk encryption, hardware models, last restart, app versions, all that is essential stuff. The full inventory is collected continuously. This runs on device, and the info is just there in Fleet to ready to act on and extend on what you needed. So we have a very rich API. And with more config managed and assigned, you run into this, that every fleet has those exceptions, dev teams, admin users, AI pilot groups. And the scoping challenge is not a reason to break the company baseline with ad hoc overrides in the GUI. And for this, Fleet uses the label logic to handle this more cleanly, where you group hosts for targeting. You can have defined includes and excludes per persona. We use the labels here. And this, again, you can see this is just a couple of lines of code. And this is easy to handle in Git and reviewable in Git. And the exception lives right next to the rule that inspired it. And the same approach applies for software installs. We like others, have a managed catalog for apps. You can have custom packages, everything fully managed in Git. This is lightweight by design. You provide the download location or package hash, and that's basically it. And again, it's controlled, reviewable, deployed in the same way as everything else. And now I hand it back to Harry.
Thanks, Henry. So kind of zooming out a bit, at scale, the temptation might be to manage more, but the real discipline is in managing less and picking the right things. Manage what keeps your devices secure and what helps your organization work effectively, but then push back on everything else. For example, managing wallpapers per department. That's not management, that's just operational overhead. Instead, have a system and enable your users to be able to pick their favorite. Focus on treating endpoint management like a platform where you standardize your configs, control your OS and app updates, understand your identity integrations, and deploy repeatable processes, less reaction and more prevention. So what actually changes when AI enters the workflow? Honestly, much less than you would think. The process you just built is what makes this safe. Humans review before anything touches a device. AI can't merge and AI can't deploy, and so the intent and accountability will stay with you and your team. What you do gain is speed and reach. You describe what you want, AI drafts the change, follows your repo conventions, opens a pull request. You review it just like any other change. And it works with whatever AI investments you guys have already made. There's no new vendor, there's no new budget conversations, just your process running faster. GitOps doesn't just manage devices, it transforms traditional MDM into compliance-ready operations. Migration reveals what was already broken, but that's not a problem, that's an opportunity. Normalize, version, verify, and commit those changes to Git. Every step is traceable and even reversible. Docs and standard operating procedures live in the repo, readable and auditable by anyone on your team. And then when your GitOps admin moves on, all of the knowledge stays in Git. And that's not a feature, that's the whole point. If you're interested in learning more and checking out the tool, come visit us at the booth. Thank you.
Any questions?
Going once, going twice, once.
Just one question. You showed a very nice way to generate. Okay, again, so the others can hear it as well. You showed a very nice way to generate mobile config files from the library managed preferences. I just wanted to ask you if there's something on the horizon to do something similar with DDM settings as well. No.
No, the thing is, this tool only works for the stuff that manifests in the file system, and DDM works differently. So I don't see that this feature is coming. However, the schema is in the tool, so there's ways to use this to generate it. However, there's also other ways to just get to that DDM config. This is, of course, a tooling for special use cases. It may fit your needs, or you have other tools that are better. Yeah, that's the reason why it's open source, to be versatile. And one thing that I didn't share, this, of course, is compiled so that it also runs in Linux. So in the full CI/CD workflow, you could use this to just like validate configs. Yeah, that's stuff that we'll continue working on.
Very nice. Thank you very much.
Sure.